Shalom. First and foremost, I'm beginning this lesson by giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rukak Wadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who ruled well and who taught me this truth. Peace and salutations to the hopeful elect of the nation of Israel. And all praises, honor, and glory is definitely due to Yahweh Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, especially in the days that we're in. And I just finished listening to a lesson sent by the beloved brother Yawam in the group chat. And it was a Dallas in class. So you have to water Yahweh Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, for bringing your prophecies to pass and giving us enlightenment. They did enlighten me more, and I'm sure the other brothers as well. It enlightened me more on the MOTB. Okay, the Mark of the Beast, Revelation 13 and 16. And so he made a point, the Elder Yashurumba made a point, and I'm going to add this, that he's also with the Elder Apostle Aramlab at the moment. Okay, and he was part of that video. Okay, I might get a little bit of it. We'll see where the Spirit leads me. But he made a point to being able to break down Revelation chapter 13 and 16 through 18. Because if you're teaching this truth, and this is the main prophecy that needs to be taught, outside of the return of Yahweh Shai, this is the main prophecy that needs to be taught, because this is the prophecy that assures, if you can avoid this prophecy, it basically assures your seat in that chariot when Yahweh Shai returns. Okay? And so I want to go into it, and that's why I'm in the blue letter. I don't know where the Spirit is going to take me with this, or how long this lesson is going to be. I just have to go with the Spirit, because it's a lot that I would like to say. There's a part of me that want to segue into other areas and just to touch back to this one, but we'll see what the Spirit does. But the Wadi Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai for giving me this lesson to do, and the Spirit to actually do it. So I'm going to start with the prophecy. Revelation chapter 13 and 16, and I'm in the blue letter. It says, "And he causeth all, both small, great, rich, and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads." Now I'm saying mark instead of just pronouncing the word, as a means of trying to throw off the algorithm so the video don't get taken down. So bear with me. Hell, I might still go off, but we'll see. It says, "And that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark," well, here I go, "or the name of the beast, or the number of his name." So Yahweh Ratazah, this video don't get taken down. It says, "Here is wisdom, let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. Okay, and the times, we're coming upon a time right now, and I got a video I want to play for you. I'm going to play a little part of it. But we're coming upon a time right now where the dollar is being crashed, and you're not going to be able to buy or sell. You're not going to be able to participate in regular society with this new system that they're going to bring in, which is, as we're reading according to the scriptures, is called the beast system, headed by Esau Edom, the so-called white man. Okay? You're not going to be able to participate in society unless you take this particular MARK. Okay? You're not going to be able to buy anything. You're not going to be able to sell anything. You're not going to be able to do anything. These people are trying to make themselves gods on the earth, and in order to do so, everything and everybody has to be bowing to them. He's trying to set up a pseudo birthright, to replace the one that he sold to his brother Jacob, which was passed down to us as Israelites this day. Now he's trying to undo his mistake. But your mistake was already prophesied to be done before you even did it, before you even made it. As is, you're trying to fix it, is being prophesied before you actually make your attempt. And he's making his attempt. Okay, but John the Revelator received this vision from Yahweh Shah, and we know about it today. And I'm going to say this here, if you cannot preach this, prophesy about this particular prophecy, if you can't speak on this particular prophecy, you are not a man of the Lord. You are not a man of the Lord. If you have doubts about what it is, you are not a man of the Lord. And that's why the elder said we should be able to break it down. Because you got people saying that the MOTB is sin. Then they say the MOTB is sleeping with white women. Then they say it's an embargo. Then they say it's this. Then they say it's that. You know what I'm saying? And then you got some individuals that just say, we'll see. Well, if it's a prophecy that you have to avoid, that we'll see shit ain't gonna work. The Lord will reveal it to his true prophets to preach it to his true people. And we're doing that, man, beginning with the elders and apostles of Good Millstone on down. Now, I'm going to read verse 18, and I'm going to get into some word definitions to prove this prophecy to be true. Now, before I do that, I want to look at this video. I was just looking at. Probably play a little bit of both of these. Let's start with this one.
You see $250 in earnings, and you think you made $250.
And
nope, you have to things that happen before
I started, fair use under the Copyright Act of 1976. This video is used for fair use purposes, not for monetary gain. I'm not making money off of this. We're just teaching, and to be honest, I appreciate you putting out the content.
Every reset in history, and they're happening right now. So today I'm going to show you the signs that marked every reset for the last 300 years. And guys, this isn't a doom and gloom video, because the people who spotted these signs early through our history got very wealthy off the back of it. And in the end, I'm going to tell you exactly what I'm doing with my own money. If you don't know me, my name's Nick. I've been a professional investor and unprofessional trader for 25 years. I'm not a financial advisor, and this is not an inducement to buy or sell.
And I'm going to say I haven't watched this video but I know what it's about. It says this is what always happens before a currency reset. Act now. So I do want to hear a little bit of what he might have to say. He might speak on what's actually going on, but I haven't actually watched any of this yet till now.
Any assets, and as always, do not take financial advice from some random dude on YouTube. Right, so let's get into it. First things first, the US dollar is known as the global reserve currency. But what actually is a global reserve currency? Because they never really teach us this in school. And it's really important that you understand this. So it's the money that the whole world settles up in. A factory in Vietnam sells shoes to a shop in Chile, and neither of them wants the other guy's currency. So that deal happens in dollars. Oil, copper, wheat, all of it is priced in dollars. Close to 90% of all currency trades on Earth have the dollar on one side of them. And every central bank keeps a big pile of dollars in their vault for a rainy day. That's the reserves bit, right? Now, think about what this means for America. Everyone on the planet has to earn their dollars. They have to make something, sell it, and earn their dollars. America can just print them. The French actually call this the exorbitant privilege, and they aren't wrong, really. But there's a bit that almost nobody knows, and it's the whole reason for this video. The dollar is not the first currency to hold this crown. It's roughly the sixth. Portugal had it, then Spain, then the Dutch, then the French, and then eventually Britain, and now America. On average, the crown changes heads about once a century, and every empire that's held it was completely certain that their money was forever. I mean, you gotta love history, how it rhymes. So let me tell you how it actually ends, because the story does rhyme every single time. So let's get into it. Let me take you back to Amsterdam in the 1700s. The Dutch guilder was the world's money back then. The whole world ran on it. And this video isn't going to be a boring history lesson, by the way. It's just every one of these stories will teach us something about the current situation we're in. So back then, the Bank of Amsterdam was basically the world's vault. Merchants from every country on earth kept their money there because the bank had one sacred rule. It never touched your deposits. And for over 100 years, that rule held. Then the Dutch fought a string of wars they couldn't afford, and the government leaned on the bank. So the bank started lending out the deposits that it swore it never touched, mostly to the Dutch East India Company, which was busy going broke, by the way. And nobody announced any of this, obviously. The bank just kept publishing reassurances while the vault emptied out. Then another war with Britain drained the country, word got out about this lending, and the merchants did what merchants always do. They moved their money to London. They moved their money somewhere else. So by the 1790s, the Bank of Amsterdam was finished. It was done.
Because they moved their money to London. London is basically where your central bankers, the Federal Reserve actually is. Is where that's who control the Federal Reserve of America. When you get the scriptures and they talk about 3 unclean frogs, let's just go to it right quick. Okay, so this is Revelation 16 and 13. And let me highlight it here. Revelation 16 and 13. And I saw unclean spirits like frogs come out of the mouth of the dragon, and out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet. He named the dragon, the beast, and the false prophet. Let's read it in the NLT. It says, and I saw 3 evil spirits that looked like frogs leap out of the mouths of the dragon, the beast, and the false prophet. So the dragon pretty much represents Esau Edom himself, the so-called white man. The beast is this system that he has set up. Okay, this entire system beginning with NATO and the EU. Well, with NATO and the EU, with America, Babylon the Great, being the great whore that rides that beast. Okay, so America is that main country, that main, as the scriptures say, all the countries of the world have drinking of the wine, all the nations of the world are drinking of the wine of the wrath of fornication. Okay, because America has gone throughout the earth spreading nothing but wickedness. So let me explain these three frogs to you. So when you read in the KJV, okay, well, three unclean frogs. Okay, you're talking about the monetary system, as he was just speaking of. All the money goes to London, so therefore, because the whole monetary system, the old banking system, is ran out of London. Okay, ruled by your elites. You got the dragon, which kind of actually represents the military. Okay, and the whole military, as America is known to be, or has been known to be, to have the strongest military in the world. Their military might comes out of D.C., Washington, D.C., okay, which is located in America, Babylon the Great. And that false prophet pretty much goes into the Vatican Church, okay, which is well known. The Pope is well known, extra famous, and all this here stuff. And everybody, all these different leaders of the world go to the Pope for advice, spiritual advice, basically. And all these three unclean frogs together rule the very earth in which you live in. They pretty much create the laws. They come together, create the laws that you have to live by. And they control your way of living. They control your way of thinking. Everything you have going on. They are in control. They control your spending. Well, we're going to get to that. Okay. But I had to explain what he was talking about because he did mention all the money going to London. So I had to come up with this scripture about the three frogs, which would explain that. Now let's go back to him.
'90s, the Bank of Amsterdam was finished. It was done. And the guilder was done along with it as the world's money. The people who moved early, they were fine. The people who got out early, they were fine. But the people who didn't, they got stuck holding their bag. So everyone who believed in the bank's reassurances essentially got wiped out. And remember that move, because every government in this story does the same thing. And it's just a reminder that you never trust bankers or the government. They are not your friends. But the Dutch was a long time ago, right? Let's talk about...
I'm sorry, but that was a good point. You never trust the bankers or your government. They are not your friends. And see, Israelites have a habit of trusting in the enemy. They are habitual. That's why they call it a habit. They are habitual trusters of the enemy. And it's a lot of our people that's engulfed in the ways of this beast system that's gonna take that MOTB that we were just reading about in Revelation 13 and 16. They're gonna do it because they're not gonna have any guidance or anybody to teach them not to do it. Because here we are trying to teach them at this very particular point in time, and it's been happening for over 30 years. This word has been going out about it. before technology even reached the peak that it's at right now, this has been talked about by the elders and apostles of Great Millstone, which proves they got to be the true prophets. Okay? They got to be the true men of the Lord. And they have the truth. Undeniable truth. There's nobody that can deny anything they say. They will try, but nobody can deny it. And I'm gonna tell you now, I will not be one to deny who I've learned from, who the Lord has sent to teach me. You know, who Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua has sent to teach me, and how I learned. I'm not gonna deny it. You get other people want to branch out, do their thing, and all that, and you see it all comes to naught. I'm going to stay right here where I'm at. I'm not a part of GMS. I guess I would be a part of what's called an affiliate camp, because we teach the same doctrine as GMS, and we recognize them and give double honor to them for being our teachers. Okay? And they've been preaching about this before technology has reached this point. I'm talking about in the early 90s. Before cell phones were thought of. They was preaching this word. They was talking about a microchip. They seen it. I was a child. But that shows you how powerful the Holy Spirit is. The Spirit of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua, man. And that's why you got like-minded brothers like myself, you know what I'm saying, here able to preach about it right now and be so confident in it, because we've seen the evolution that they brought about, the financial evolution, the monetary evolution, switching from regular cash then to regular cards that you swipe, and then to cards they got a chip in them and you insert it. I remember paper checks. Y'all remember that? When you had a checkbook, you go to your bank, open up an account, and they gave you a checkbook and you could write checks. That don't happen no more. I ain't seen it in a while. Maybe just rich people do it. I don't know. But I ain't seen it in a while, and I've opened and closed plenty of accounts and ain't never been offered a checkbook, and I don't know how long. But they do give you what's called a check card, which is basically a debit card. And it has a chip on it. I'm going to speak on that a little bit more. Okay? But we've seen the evolution, and it makes a lot of sense when it comes to what this mark of the beast is.
The pound, which is a bit more recent. This was in 1913. The pound sterling. It was the king, and it wasn't even close. London financed the entire planet's trade. The pound was backed by the largest empire in human history, a quarter of the world's land and people. If you stood in London in 1913...
Right quick. London financed it, because that's where the whole the whole banking system of the entire earth right now comes out of. London. That's that unclean frog. That's your elite bankers that rule everything that go on in the earth. Because money rules. They fund the militaries. They fund the wars. They fund all this shit. They fund the scamdemics. They fund everything. Because it's all their mind. These are the things that they have planned to set up their new kingdom, to try to make themselves Yahweh on earth.
said that the pound was going to lose its spot, they would have laughed you out of the room or out of the city, I guess. It'd be like standing in New York today and saying that the dollar is finished, or making YouTube videos about it. Then Britain fought 2 world wars, and the wars ran on borrowed money. By 1945, Britain's debt was roughly 250% of GDP, and the country that used to lend to the whole planet was begging America for loans. And a few things happened along the way. For example, in 1931, Britain got forced off of the gold standard. They called it temporary, but it wasn't. And 40 years later, America used the exact same words for the exact same move. They got forced off the gold standard, and they said it was temporary. 55 years later, they're still not back on the gold standard. Now here's where it gets properly dark, because Britain had no honest way to pay off the debt. So they did 3 things. And I want you to remember all 3 of these things, because they're really important. I want you to burn these things into your mind, because they're going to have a direct impact on your portfolio in coming years if the US dollar follows the same path, which I believe it will. And look, this is probably one of the greatest scams in the history of finance. Here it is step by step. So first, they trapped everyone in the pound. Countries across the empire, India, Egypt, dozens more, held massive piles of pound sterling, and they were pressured to keep holding. Ordinary Brits got capital controls. At one point, you were allowed to take only £50 out of the country on holiday, so you couldn't even get your money out, even if you saw this whole thing coming. Second, they pinned interest rates below inflation on purpose for decades. So your savings earned 2% while prices rose way faster than that. So every year, a slice of your wealth went straight to the government. It was like a stealth tax. And nobody ever voted on this, by the way. It was just the way they did things. Economists called it financial repression, which is a very polite name for it, really, but it's a massive scam. That's what it is. And third, they lied. In 1949, the Chancellor stood up and denied any plan to devalue the pound over and over in public. Then one Sunday...
So this is how they took control of your finances. They took total control of your finances. Okay, this is the beginning. This is the very beginning of them bringing in their MOTB system. Okay. Everything they did then leads us to right now. To where now they really implement it. Okay. You get control of the finances. You change the finances however you please. You got the control. And everybody just accepts what currency you say it to accept. Right now it's the paper dollar, and you see it's devaluing. I got another video on that. And eventually it's going to lead to the MOTB, man.
Evening in September, he devalued it by 30% overnight. I shouldn't laugh, because it's horrible. It's horrible what the government does. But people went to bed with a pound worth like $4, and they woke up with a pound worth $2.80 US. In 1967, they did it again. Prime Minister Harold Wilson at the time went on TV and told the nation, and I quote, he said this: "The pound in your pocket has not been devalued." The pound had literally just been devalued 14% a few days earlier. It's like one of the most famous lies in British history, financial history anyway. So people say that the US is not Britain. But back then, people said that Britain is not like France, and they would never devalue their currency. And when France did it, they said that France wasn't like Holland. And when Holland did it, they said Holland wasn't like...
The US is Britain. It came out of Britain. Okay? That's why they supposedly had the Revolutionary War, where they was fighting against Britain for independence, because Britain pretty much owned this place. And America didn't win that damn war. They just came to an agreement. But this is letting you know, I mean, hey, this whole setup was against you Jakes, man. You so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. Mainly. But they don't care about their own people either.
Explain, so on and so forth throughout history. Anyway, let me finish this story about Britain's reset. So there was one moment where the whole world saw the truth all at once. In 1956, Suez, right? Britain invaded Egypt like the superpower it thought it still was, but it wasn't anymore. And there was a run on the pound, and Britain needed dollars to defend it. America said no. Not until you pull your troops out. And Britain packed up and went home in weeks. like a naughty little kid outside the headmaster's office, because whoever holds the world's money is who gives the orders. But there's one thing people didn't know in the 1950s. The crown had already moved over to the United States because the dollar had already overtaken the pound in central bank reserves back in the 1920s. So technically the handover happened decades before Suez, and nobody announced it. The world just found out later when the US pulled its power move. It's crazy how fast things change, by the way. At its peak, the sterling made up over 70% of global reserves. By 1975, it was under 5%. A pound saved in the 1950s had lost around 90% of its buying power by the 1980s. So the signs were all there, just almost nobody acted on them. Oh, and as a side note, by the way...
So, like, hold on a second, let me take care of something.